I wanted to hit on the speculation that's been going on of why didn't Tesla invest in xAI, and will there be some sort of Tesla xAI merger? We've got this shareholder meeting toward the end of the year. Is that maybe to allow for some time for a merger to get in place, or at least some sort of direct investment? We have SpaceX making a $2 billion investment. What are your thoughts on the angst of Tesla shareholders wanting a piece of this and speculation that there might be more of a direct investment or business combination on the horizon between these two companies?
So I just thought of this, and I may be getting my cases wrong. There was a lawsuit against the board of directors, and they had to give up like half of their pay or something crazy.
A lot of money that they had to give back.
$700 million or more in Tesla stock or stock options. This was around the Solar City deal with the
I don't know that it was related to Solar City. I could be wrong because I didn't know you were going down the rabbit hole, but I think it was more on the stock-based comp that they got these options. My understanding is these were awarded in 2017, if my memory is right. Robin Denholm got hundreds of millions of dollars in these on top of some prior year pay. I think it was the Michigan retirement plan or something like that actually sued Tesla, saying this is an egregious amount of money. And as part of the settlement, Denholm and several others just gave back a very large chunk of that money that they, per the terms of their contract, were entitled to.
I think anything with a potential conflict of interest, maybe they're intentionally avoiding.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Obvious time for me for them to acquire a chunk of xAI was when it was worth 10 billion. Tesla could put in 2.5 billion and own a quarter of it. Or maybe it was when it was like 20 billion and they could again put in 5 billion. So now that it's worth well over 130 billion.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't recall the exact valuation, but yeah, it has gone crazy, more than 10x, I think, in the last year.
It's not as attractive. Along the way, they were wanting to avoid conflict of interest. A merger, I still am not sure how I feel about this. What are your thoughts on the merger? Maybe I listen to you and maybe you sway me.
Yeah, I think it gets interesting for Optimus. We know Tesla's very close with FSD. We know they've got a lot of training compute. I think of the types of outputs that you can do in a car. What's the angle of the wheel? Am I braking and am I accelerating? And what's the gradient on each of those? It's a very limited field of outputs. So if you look at the different permutations of your potential options of pack this box, or in a more complicated project, let's say you've got to, I don't know, build a birdhouse or something like that, or assemble some IKEA furniture. Now there's a bunch of different planning steps you could take. Do you completely unpack everything first and then set it all out? Do you organize your tools first? Do you go in with the instructions and find the pieces? That's just one example, but the amount of computational needs that I think Tesla is going to have is going to skyrocket with Optimus. They've showed some pretty cool demos where it can navigate its environment reasonably well. But when it comes to actually doing useful work, I think they're going to need huge amounts of computation. A merger accomplishes two things. It gives them real unfettered access to like the cutting edge model that is going to have some very explicit understanding of the world. And then that's a really positive feedback loop to xAI or Tesla if it's all integrated in one company, because you're gathering all this real world information, which is way more valuable than anything else out there, because nobody has real world robots out there in scale right now. So if you want to compete in the labor market, having the combination of robots in the field plus a super capable base model, that's how you win. I think it could make sense for both companies for that reason. The other thing I'm thinking, and this is nerdy, this is a much lower requirement or reason to do a merger relative to the other, but digging into how much power is needed if they're going to truly go to like 2 gigawatt scale plant and it's operating at 60 hertz. One of our clients was helping me think through this, and it was super interesting. Megapacks are a really helpful way to do this, because you can take in 60 hertz or 50 hertz power, essentially use the inverters in the Megapack, and then give the power with whatever characteristics you need at the data center level. If you're scaling to 2 gigawatts, minimum 1 gigawatt at the Colossus data center, and then presumably scaling more over time, having priority access to Megapacks is something that would be very valuable to xAI. Time to power and ensuring that you've got power supply in addition to GPU supply is extremely important. It's one of the key components to Musk's secret sauce with this Colossus data center. Those are two reasons why it might make more sense than I initially thought.
I think xAI needs Tesla too.
That was my point.
You were talking about getting real world data from Optimus and from Robotaxi, from all the cars in a fleet, I think is the next frontier for xAI. In their reveal of Grok 4, they were talking about how they were running out of problems to get Grok to solve and having a hard time evaluating if Grok is thinking through the problem correctly and giving the correct answer. Now they need to get into video. These LLMs are solving the text domain. Now they need to solve the real world. xAI may need Tesla more than Tesla needs xAI.
Yeah, this is a key point you've made several times that bears repeating. I don't think a lot of people are thinking about this. All these foundation models from Llama and Gemini and everyone else, like they've all basically scraped the entire internet and have trained all they can on text. What is increasingly important in this AI arms race is real world data, video data. I think Gemini having access to YouTube, that's clearly very valuable. But even that is, like filtered, uploaded data. There's undoubtedly a lot they can learn just by accessing that. But I think the flywheel that Tesla had with FSD, repeating that with Optimus is massively valuable. Having that actual data, like that's the constraint. Having real world data is now probably more valuable than having access to all the GPUs and the talents. One thing that has surprised me in the last couple of months is seeing how Zuckerberg is floundering in this whole thing. He seemed reasonably sophisticated and, oh yeah, we're going to open source it. It turns out that you're just running into walls because you didn't have any proprietary data and you didn't have a super amazing staff, at least better than everyone else competing in the space. So what you're left with is writing $100 million signing bonus checks to real talent and hoping that they'll come and join you. Aside from that, you're just paying to compete in this space. It's really not compelling. Yeah, it's interesting. I think we're in this stage now where it seemed like there were half a dozen companies that were really competing to have an edge in this space. We're seeing in real time the field narrowing right now. I think the combination of Tesla and xAI could actually leapfrog ChatGPT, and that alone is probably worth $100 billion price tag, even though that would admittedly be a fair amount of dilution to us Tesla shareholders.
We'll see what OpenAI and others come out with, but essentially Grok is in many ways outperforming them in a lot of areas. Maybe not in coding, but there are some things you could do with coding. I think in certain uses of the Copilot, like in Copilot, people are struggling to use the new Grok 4. The new Grok is slower, but it comes up with very high quality answers. What's shocking to me is that Grok 4 just leapfrogged everybody. At xAI in essentially 2 years' time, Elon announced this 2 years ago, and they've essentially surpassed everyone in the benchmarks. Now, real world testing is differing a little bit, but I think that's super impressive.
Yeah, I'm always a little cautious whenever these new milestones come out because it's been several months since we've had a major update from OpenAI. We know they're cooking some stuff in the background, and so very well could be the case that a month from now we get some new update that they've named some terrible name like P7 and it just comes out and blows everyone away and it surpasses Grok 3. These titles of the most performant model have a very short half-life. While I agree with you, it's impressive. I'm worried to just say xAI has clearly won and it's all over.
Matt has a good point here. You can game the tests. We were curious in the space. We talked to a private company involved in making intelligence models. One of the things they were doing for some of the benchmarks was they would pull the top 3 LLMs and then they would use consensus answers.
Yeah.
And then they were claiming that was the result they were getting. So that's not your intelligence, that's someone else's.
Yeah, that was the opening.
That, but
no, slightly different situation than what these big guys are going. But your broader point and Matt's broader point is there's a lot you can do to gamify this. The real test, like Elon and others have been saying, is when do you get actual scientific discoveries and
Mhm.
breakthroughs. If it actually is as capable as a PhD, it should be a very short period of time before we've got some breakthroughs. They might be trivial at first, but the types of breakthroughs where they come up with some novel insight that advances human knowledge. I think the real concern with all these LLM models is they're just probabilistically giving you like some answer that they've read somewhere else. For these to really live up to the hype, we need to prove that they're not doing that because they're coming up with novel insights that did not exist anywhere in the human knowledge set. I think we're going to have an answer on that in the next couple months. I'd be surprised if we don't have some novel breakthroughs from Grok and other players in the space. I'm curious to see what that looks like, because theoretically that flywheel could start turning really fast if you're getting more models which are advancing human knowledge, and then you're getting more PhDs that are on average smarter, and then they're all expanding human knowledge. We could have a pretty vicious flywheel, vicious in a good way, pretty soon.